Ever get that feeling like, like there's something kind of pulling your strings, making you act in ways that are just not like you? Like, you snap at a friend or something over nothing, and you're like, wait, where did that come from?
Yeah, well, maybe instead of like grabbing a tinfoil hat or something, maybe we should just look inward a little bit.
Okay.
Carl Jung,
okay,
the famous psychologist, he called this the shadow self.
Oh, interesting.
And he wasn't just like, theorizing about this stuff.
Yeah.
He saw it like play out in his patients' lives.
So this is real.
Yeah.
It's not some like mystical...
It's not mystical.
Yeah. So one of the sources I was looking at described it as like the parts of ourselves that we're kind of told to hide.
Yeah.
Going all the way back to childhood.
Exactly. Like, think about all the things, growing up.
Yeah.
All the traits and desires. Even talents and things that maybe didn't fit in to what you were supposed to be.
Right.
The good boy or good girl mold.
Right. Like if you cried easily, maybe you were told to like toughen up.
Right. You got to be strong.
Yeah.
Be a man or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
Whatever it is.
Don't be so sensitive.
Right. And it's not always bad stuff either,
Yeah.
It could be like you were naturally gifted at art.
Yeah.
But your family pushed you toward a more practical career,
Like being a doctor.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Be an engineer.
Yeah.
That artistic side, that could become part of your shadow.
Interesting.
So
it's not even always like a negative thing?
Not always.
Yeah.
Okay,
so but how does this hiding then lead to this control? Like it's not literally a being back then, right?
No, it's not like a little monster.
Okay.
But it's more like, it's like a program running in the background of your mind.
Interesting.
One of the sources even called it like a saboteur.
Okay.
That's whispering these doubts and fears that can lead to self-sabotage.
Oh, wow.
You think about those times when you were so close to a goal and then things just fell apart.
Yes.
Maybe it wasn't just bad luck.
That's kind of scary.
Yeah.
Like a self-fulfilling prophecy almost?
It is, kind of.
Yeah. But then why would any part of ourselves want to hold us back?
Yeah, that's a good question. And it comes down to, on some level, it's trying to protect us.
Okay.
Because remember, these are the parts that we were told were not acceptable.
Right.
So they operate in the shadows.
Yeah.
But they still want to be seen, heard, acknowledged.
Yeah.
And sometimes the only way they know how to do that is to create a little chaos.
Oh, that's so interesting.
Yeah.
So it's almost like brilliant in a twisted way.
Yeah, in a way, yeah.
Yeah, and is that like the same thing as when you instantly just dislike somebody? Could that be the shadow at work?
That is exactly what Jung called projection.
Yeah.
We shine the spotlight of judgment on other people because we haven't really dealt with those same traits in ourselves.
Wow. So this is getting kind of like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde-ish to me.
Oh, it's a great analogy because,
Like, are we all secretly harboring a monster?
Well, think about it this way. Trying to deny those shadow parts is like Jekyll trying to suppress Hyde.
Right.
It just makes them stronger.
Wow.
More likely to burst out in these destructive ways.
Yeah, and then we're really in trouble.
Exactly.
And, speaking of classic stories and tales, the myth of Narcissus also came up in my research.
Yes.
I thought that was really interesting.
Oh, yeah. Narcissus is a great example.
Yeah.
He was so fixated on his surface reflection, he totally missed his inner depth.
Right.
So he's a classic case of, being blinded by that need to be perfect and ignoring the less flattering aspects of himself.
It's all about the surface.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. This is all pretty intense, but you said earlier that it's not always negative, right?
Right.
There's got to be some good to this.
Yeah, there's a huge upside to all the shadow stuff. Think of it like alchemy, turning lead into gold.
Right.
When we face those shadow parts, we integrate them.
Yeah.
They can become a source of immense creativity and personal power.
Like Kurt Cobain, pouring all of his angst into his music.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Or Elizabeth Gilbert facing all of her fears and doubts to write Eat, Pray, Love. It's not about erasing the dark parts.
Right.
But using them as fuel.
Yeah. Okay, so it's not about being some perfectly good person then.
No.
It's about embracing our wholeness.
Yeah.
Even the messy bits.
That's the key.
Okay, so how do we do that then?
Well, that's what we call shadow work.
Okay.
And that's something we should unpack carefully.
Okay.
There are some specific techniques, and it's not always easy, but it's definitely worth it.
Okay.
Yeah,
I'm really interested to learn more about that.
We'll dig into that.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. Shadow work. That sounds intense.
It does.
Maybe a little scary even.
Yeah.
So where do we even begin?
Well, thankfully it's not about battling monsters in the dark or anything like that.
Okay.
It's more about becoming a detective of your own soul.
Okay.
And one of the best tools for that is a good old-fashioned journal.
Okay, so just like writing down our feelings.
Pretty much.
Okay.
I tried that once and I just ended up sounding like a melodramatic teenager.
Well, it's not about perfect prose or anything like that.
Okay.
It's about honesty.
Okay.
So
no censoring.
Yeah, just let those thoughts and feelings flow onto the page.
Just let it all out.
Yeah, you might be surprised at the patterns that emerge.
So you start to realize maybe you always get snappy with your boss.
Right.
When they mention deadlines.
Exactly. You start to see the triggers, the recurring themes, and, maybe those deadlines are tapping into this childhood fear of not being good enough that got buried in the shadow. Mm-hmm. Okay, what if those feelings are just too big, too scary to face on my own?
Well, that's where a therapist can be really valuable.
Okay.
They can provide a safe space to explore those depths and help you develop coping strategies for those intense emotions that might come up.
So this isn't just a DIY project?
Not for everyone, no.
Okay, so what about this active imagination thing I keep hearing about?
Oh, yeah.
That sounds a little woo-woo to me.
It's not about crystals and incense, I promise.
Right.
It's more like having a conversation with your subconscious.
Okay.
Jung believed that, dreams are a direct line to the shadow.
Oh, interesting. So, analyzing our dreams.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm terrible at remembering mine.
You don't need perfect recall or anything. Just start with a dream that feels really vivid, or emotionally charged.
Okay.
And then just close your eyes and picture yourself back in that dream.
Okay, I'm picturing it. Now what?
Engage with the characters or symbols that appear. Ask them questions, really listen to their responses because they're parts of you trying to communicate.
So if I dream of a locked door, I should ask it what's behind it.
Exactly. It might feel strange at first, but it can be incredibly revealing.
Wow.
And as with any deep inner work, if it feels too overwhelming, seeking guidance from a therapist is always a good idea.
Okay.
They can really help.
And speaking of creative outlets, one of the sources mentioned how artists like Kurt Cobain channeled their inner turmoil into their art.
Yeah.
Could that be considered a form of shadow work?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Whether it's painting, writing, music, dance, creative expression can be a powerful way to give voice to those shadow elements.
So instead of letting those feelings fester inside, you're transforming them into something beautiful.
Right.
Even meaningful.
Exactly. You're not denying them.
Yeah.
But you're finding a healthy way to express and understand them.
So if someone's feeling really overwhelmed by their emotions, maybe picking up a paintbrush or writing in a journal, could be a good starting point.
It could be incredibly helpful.
Okay.
And alongside creative expression, mindfulness and meditation can also be really valuable tools for shadow work.
Yeah, I can see how mindfulness would be really helpful.
Yeah.
Learning to observe your thoughts and feelings without judgment.
Like clouds passing by, you know? It helps you see those shadow elements as they are.
Right.
Without getting all caught up in their story.
Right. And meditation can help cultivate that inner stillness and awareness.
Yeah. It creates a more peaceful inner environment.
So that you can actually confront those shadow elements.
Exactly.
Without feeling completely overwhelmed.
Right.
Okay, so this all sounds really good in theory, but I imagine this kind of self-exploration can be pretty daunting.
You're right. It's not always easy.
Yeah.
One of the biggest challenges is resistance. We've spent so much time pushing these shadow elements away that it's natural to resist looking at them.
Right. Like who wants to face their inner demons?
Yeah.
Right. It's much easier to just ignore them.
It feels easier.
Yeah.
But remember, shadow work is a journey of self-discovery, not self-judgment.
Okay.
It's about embracing our wholeness.
Okay.
Not striving for some impossible perfection.
I guess it's kind of like that saying, what we resist persists.
Exactly.
So the more we try to push those shadow parts away, the stronger they become.
The more they're going to show up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And speaking of uncomfortable emotions, I imagine fear is another big obstacle.
It's huge.
People encounter in doing this work.
Absolutely.
Fear of what they might uncover.
Yeah.
Fear the unknown.
It's like venturing into a dark, unfamiliar forest. It's natural to feel scared.
Yeah, absolutely.
But remember, you don't have to go it alone.
Right.
A therapist can be like an invaluable guide, providing support and tools to help you navigate those challenging emotions.
It's like they're the flashlight.
Exactly.
Helping you to see those shadowy parts more clearly.
Right.
And maybe even find the treasure hidden within.
I love that. That's a great analogy.
Yeah. And what about shame?
Oh, yeah. Shame is a big one.
I imagine that comes up a lot.
It comes up a lot.
in this work.
Yeah, shame about the things that we've tried to hide from others and even from ourselves.
Right. Shame is such a heavy burden to carry.
It is.
So it makes sense that it would come up in this kind of deep inner work.
It absolutely does, but it's important to remember that those shadow elements, they're not inherently bad or wrong.
Okay.
They're simply parts of ourselves that we haven't fully integrated.
So instead of judging those parts, we need to learn to accept them with compassion.
Compassion, exactly.
Kind of like how we'd accept a wounded child.
Beautiful. Yeah.
Who needs our love and care.
That's a great way to put it.
And as we work through those feelings of shame, we develop a greater sense of self-compassion.
Absolutely. We start to accept ourselves fully, imperfections and all.
And that self-acceptance makes us more resilient,
better
equipped to handle all of life's challenges.
For sure.
Like we're building up our inner strength.
Exactly. So it's not just about uncovering those shadow elements.
Right.
It's about healing and integrating them into our wholeness. That's where the real transformation happens.
Yeah, it's like those leaden weights of shame and fear are transformed into golden opportunities for growth and self-discovery.
I love it.
Yeah. So this whole shadow work thing, this feels bigger than just psychology.
Yeah.
You know?
It is.
What about the philosophical side of all this?
That's a great point. You know, remember we touched on Nietzsche earlier?
Yeah.
And his idea of the Uberman. Well, that concept ties in beautifully with this idea of shadow work.
Right, the overman who creates his own values, forging his own path.
Right.
Yeah, that definitely resonates with this idea of transcending those societal expectations, embracing our wholeness.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's not about like rejecting morality or anything, but it's about understanding that our definitions of good and evil, they're often shaped by societal norms.
Okay.
You know, not some universal truth.
So it's like we're taking these values that we inherit, putting them under our microscope, and seeing if they really even hold up. You know?
Exactly.
Do they align with like who we are deep down?
Right. And Nietzsche believed that confronting those shadow parts, you know, the ones that we've labeled bad or unacceptable, that's crucial to that whole process of self-discovery.
Because if we're always trying to be good, then we're never really seeing the full picture of ourselves.
Exactly.
Yeah, we're just playing a role.
We're playing a role. Yeah. It's about integrating those shadow elements, understanding how they contribute to our wholeness, rather than pretending they don't exist.
It's like we're taking ownership of the whole story, not just the chapters that we like.
I love that. And when we do that, we move beyond those limitations of conventional morality. We start creating our own values based on a much deeper understanding of ourselves.
Right. We become the authors of our own lives.
Exactly.
This reminds me of that Taoist concept of yin and yang.
Oh, yeah.
You know how like darkness and light?
Yeah.
They're not opposites.
Right.
They're like two sides of the same coin.
It's a perfect example. You know, Eastern philosophies have been grappling with this idea of balance for centuries.
For centuries,
You can't have one without the other.
Right.
Our shadow elements aren't separate from us. They're part of what makes us unique.
So it's not about becoming all like light and love.
No.
It's about accepting that we contain both.
Exactly. And that's okay. It's more than okay. It's essential.
Wow.
And in that wholeness, we find true liberation. Liberation from those rigid definitions of who we should be.
Right.
And the freedom to become who we truly are.
I like that.
Yeah.
So as we're wrapping up this deep dive into the shadow self, what's the one thing you really hope our listener walks away with?
That the shadow is not the enemy.
Okay.
It's a part of us that holds valuable insight and untapped potential.
Okay.
It's been hidden away, maybe even demonized.
Right.
But it's not inherently bad.
It's like that quote Jung said,
Yeah.
Who looks outside dreams, who looks inside awake.
I love that.
Yeah, this whole deep dive has been about waking up the full reality of who we are.
Exactly. And it takes courage to do that. To look inward without judgment.
Yeah.
But the rewards are immense.
Yeah, because when we face those shadow parts,
Yeah.
when we understand them,
Yeah.
integrate them,
Yeah.
that's when we can unlock our true potential.
Exactly.
It's not about erasing those parts,
No.
but transforming them.
Beautifully put.
Yeah. And remember, it's a journey, but a destination.
It's a process.
There will be challenges.
For sure.
Moments of resistance,
Yeah.
fear, maybe even shame.
Absolutely.
But those are all part of the process.
They are.
It's like we're forging our own path through that dark forest.
Yeah.
And on the other side is a deeper, more authentic version of ourselves.
I love that analogy. Yeah. And, that journey starts with a single step.
Right.
Maybe it's picking up a journal. Mm-hmm. Maybe it's paying attention to a recurring dream.
Yeah.
Maybe it's seeking guidance from a therapist. Whatever that first step is.
Yeah.
Trust that you have the strength kit.
So to our listener, if you're feeling called to explore those hidden depths within you, know that you're not alone. And in those shadows, you might just discover the most extraordinary parts of yourself.
Absolutely.